Good afternoon and welcome. Welcome indeed, yes, to a Tuesday edition of the Mark Moses Show podcast. As we're always broadcasting from the Anidjar and Levine Accident Attorney Studios. Take back control of your life. Call them today. This is very key here in March. 1-800-747-3733. That's 1-800-747-FREE. It's Anidjar and Levine Accident Attorneys. All right, let's get this guy on. He's been running around covering college basketball nonstop. He's my great friend. Hoops HQ is the website. He is Brett Friedlander. Brett, how you doing today, buddy?
I'm doing well, but I think the Florida Gators could use the Anidjar and Levine accident hotline because, man, oh, man, that was an accident.
All right.
The last couple of minutes of that game was not pretty.
Dude, here's what's so crazy. I cover the Magic as well. So Saturday night, they're playing the Lakers, and they're making boneheaded coaching mistakes in that game, and they lost it by a point at the buzzer. Then Sunday night, I'm watching the Gators, another team I cover, and 8 seconds to go, make even dumber boneheaded coaching mistakes in that game. Here's what I understand. If you have the lead, why are you calling timeout? Why are you helping the other? Why did Florida, you've done this a long time. You've seen every scenario possible. If you have the lead, 2 points, they have the ball. Why are you helping them at any situation? I don't understand that. I don't get it.
The only thing I can think of is that Todd Golden did not have full trust in his team's defensive ability and wanted to make sure that they knew exactly what he wanted to be done. And either it was not the right call or they didn't do what he told them to do because it was, yeah.
I've been hearing rumors. Here's what's funny. I've been hearing rumors. It's like, oh, maybe you should have fouled him or no. Straight up play defense. You have the lead. Don't give up a three. You know Iowa does not want to go to overtime. Dude, these are fundamentals. I'm in shock by that game.
The one thing you got to give Todd Golden a pass on is that he's got a natty and he just won it last year. So maybe it was just a brain freeze. I don't know. And
then, all right. I know this is therapy now, so I appreciate it. All right, look, I get it. You're in the moment. You have 4 seconds. 4 seconds. It looked like the play design was for a play that's 8 to 10 seconds, where you're going to drive to the lane and then pass it to Congdon. What? No, get the shot up. If they had last year's team with Walter Clayton Jr., they get the shot up.
But you know what, Mark? That right there is the reason Florida wasn't going to win the national championship anyway. Their guard play was not even close to as good as it was last year. And it wasn't just Walter Clayton Jr. The three of them. I mean, you're right, the championship game, it wasn't even – I don't even remember which of the other two guys it was that had the big game, but the kid with the dunk. But, the poster dunk. But anyway, yeah, Richard, yeah. So – it was inevitable. Now, it happened spectacularly and earlier than I thought it was going to, but they just didn't have the guard play on that team that they did the year before.
I just want to say this. Iowa, give them all the credit in the world. It wasn't the Lions. It wasn't the Lions den. It was the Gator den. I mean, that was in Tampa. All Gator fans are there. And look, their coach, we've been talking about it. He was a D2 coach, then went to Drake. Now he's at Iowa. Maybe he's the hot name moving forward. That was
I don't know. But let me just tell you, Todd Golden's name is coming up a lot here in Chapel Hill. So when they finally decide to part ways with Hubert here in the next couple of days, that's a name to consider. Although I also hear that Billy Donovan's name is in there, and as is Tommy Lloyd's.
All right, I will just say this, and then I wanted to bring that up with you. As a lifelong Bulls fan, you can have Billy Donovan if you're North Carolina. Go ahead.
Everything I hear is that Billy is looking to get back into the college game, especially now that it's legal to pay the players. His ice is very thin in Chicago right now anyway, and it would be probably a good idea for him to get out of Dodge before the posse catches up with him.
It's a good point. All right. Do you think Hubert Davis survives this offseason, or do you think there'll be a new coach there?
I'm leaning toward the fact that Hubert Davis doesn't survive this week. And there are conflicting things going on right now, because if you would have asked me this question yesterday, I would have been very convinced that it was imminent, because yesterday what I was told is that the decision had already been made and that they were looking for a diplomatic way to get out of this, to not embarrass Hubert, since Hubert is a member of the family. He was a great player there. He is very loyal to the university, and they wanted to do this and not embarrass him. Okay. Well, today Seth Davis has put out a tweet that Hubert has said yes to coming back. So I don't know if the old guard has said, we can't do this to one of our own, or what the situation is. But I still would not be shocked within the next day or two if a decision to move on has been made, because, Mark, 5 years he's been there. The first year that he was there, he got to the Final Four, but it was with a team that was on the bubble right up till the selection Sunday. They got hot because Brady Manick became, the second coming of Larry Bird during the postseason. And they also got some bracket luck in that number 1 seed Baylor had one of its best players injured and didn't play in the second round game. So, it was really a fluke. Well, then he gets to the Sweet 16 with a team that was a number 1 seed that should have gone even further. They got upset by Alabama in the Sweet 16. The last 2 years, he's barely made it to the tournament and has lost in the first round. So a lot of places, that's a great resume that will get you extended. North Carolina is one of the bluest of the blue blood programs in the country. And losing in the first round twice in a row, only going to the tournament 3 times in the last 4 years, that's not the standard. That's not. I mean, look, you're bordering on becoming Indiana or UCLA, basically just on the fringes of being relevant, let alone being a championship contender every year. And I don't think that sits well with the folks in Chapel Hill. And I just think that at a certain point, loyalty goes a long way. But you got to say, is this who we want to be, or do we want to be who we have been? And that's a decision that is being wrestled around right now, I think, by the athletic program, by the boosters, by the university community in general.
I just want to say this. Maybe they dodged a bullet by blowing the game to VCU, because Illinois hammered and embarrassed VCU in the next round. I don't know what would have happened to Carolina, but maybe it's for the best in what happened.
I think Carolina's size would have kept that from, and the fact that Carolina likes to get up and down the floor would have kept it from being an embarrassment. But I do think Illinois was by far the better team and would have won that game. But look, losing to VCU is one thing. Losing the way they did was just unacceptable. I mean, he made no adjustments in the second half. He only made one substitution, and his guys were gassed at the end. They just fell apart. And then what made it worse was his performance in the post-game press conference, because he was belligerent. He answered with short, snippy answers. And basically, when he asked a big picture a question, he basically said, "I don't know." And it was really, to me, that was the last straw.
And I asked you this question last week as we were previewing the tournament. Hey, if you get a call from Chapel Hill, even if it's you're the coach of Florida, just won a title, is that a phone call you have to take if you're?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. I mean, look, North Carolina, Duke, right? Kentucky, Arizona, Kansas, maybe UConn now, but those are the elite. Those are the ones you have to take. And you might want to throw Indiana, UCLA, Louisville in there, but those programs have taken a big step back, but they've got history. But no, there are certain schools, there are certain programs that you at least take the phone call, and UNC is right at the top of the list.
Okay, I want to just clarify this. Were they without their best player? UNC?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, but that look. The DNA of this team was what you saw against VCU, even when Caleb Wilson was healthy. I mean, during the course of the game, they could look like a Final Four team, and at the same time look like a team that was getting ready to get knocked out in the first round. I give you the example of a game against Syracuse in Chapel Hill in late January. They looked like world beaters. They were up by 31 points with about 16 minutes to go. Syracuse got to within 6, and Carolina had to hold on for dear life to win that game. And that was kind of like the whole kind of microcosm of their season. They were really good when they were good. They were really bad when they were bad. And Yeah, they missed Caleb Wilson, and he's a guy who against VCU would have been get him the ball, get the heck out of his way, and he's going to score for you. So maybe that doesn't happen, but there were a lot of other things that were wrong with that team. And yeah, and they were exposed by VCU.
All right, we're here with Brett Friedlander talking March Madness. I know it's going to start up again this Thursday night. All right, here's my thing. I was texting you as you were in the building there for Duke. Duke was lucky to survive the first game against 16.
Well, I'm going to disagree with that, but go ahead.
I'm just going to say this. All right, they won the game. They won. Give them all the credit. I felt like in the second game against TCU, something finally woke up in that second half. It's like they got kicked in the head, and they go, oh, wait, that's right. We're the number 1 seed. And they laid it on the Horned Frogs with about 10 minutes to go. I felt like they got their swagger back. How about you?
Yeah. Well, first of all, in that first game, at halftime, Malik Brown had an interview with whoever I can't even remember who the halftime the sideline reporter is. But anyway, he told her, we thought this game was going to be a cakewalk. After it was over, Cameron Boozer admitted, we didn't take this seriously. Uh-oh. And it got to be, I got 3 minutes into the second half, and it dawned on those guys that, hey, these guys aren't the Washington Generals, and nobody told them that this was supposed to be a show. They think this is a game. And that's when they locked down on defense, and they went the next 11 minutes and gave up 4 points. So, I think Duke really kind of flipped the switch in that game. Against TCU, they got their starting center, Patrick Gamba, back after missing the last 4 games with a foot injury, and he was clearly rusty. And I think it took them that whole half to kind of figure out how we used to play and how we're supposed to play. And that's when Cameron Boozer decided, I don't have to be a back to the basket big anymore. I can go out and I can handle the ball and I can drive and that's what you saw. He scored 19 of his 22 points in the second half. And I think that's when Duke really kind of got back to being Duke. And yes, it was a wake-up call. It definitely was. But I think it also is a product of they are closer to being whole again than they have been since the game before the UNC game to end the regular season. They still don't have Caleb Foster back, their starting point guard. But the way Caden Boozer's been playing 38, 39, sometimes even 40 minutes a game, they really don't miss him as much. And so, maybe they get Foster back this week. It's possible. It's more likely that if they survive this week, they get him back for the Final Four. But I'm not writing Duke off just because of the Siena game. I think that there's a stat that was floating around there that a number 1 seed has never won the national championship after only beating its 16th seeded first round opponent by 10 points or less. Well, Duke won by 6. What? But I don't think that this team is. And now maybe they don't go on to win the national championship, but it's not going to be because of that.
Are they the team to beat in your eyes, though? Because we got some contenders now. We really do. But are they the team to beat?
I think they are one of the 4 teams to beat at this point. All right. I think the 4 teams to beat right now are Duke, Michigan, Arizona, and Houston.
I have no problem with that. I know, like I joked, I know all the St. John's fans are not going to like that comment, but I'm with you on this.
Let me tell you about St. John's, too. It's got the potential to be a really good game, but I don't think this is a particularly good matchup for St. John's because Duke is big and they are, they like to play a more half-court game, so they're not going to let and that defense is the best defense in the country. They're number 1 Ken Pom, adjusted defensive efficiency. And you saw what they did to TCU, especially in the second half. They're going to slow that game down, and they're going to make St. John's make shots. St. John's does not shoot the ball well. You saw that against Kansas. I just think that their size and their defense is going to make St. John's play a game that they're not real comfortable playing, and I think that that's going to play into Duke's hands. Now, St. John's has got a lot of talent, and maybe they still win the game, but I just think that this is not going to be the slam dunk, upset that a lot of people think it's going to be.
As Pitino, though, has his legend grown even more for what he's done
Oh,
there?
sure. I mean, this is what the 5th team he's taken to the Sweet 16, and
Yeah.
I mean, he's one of the all-time greats. But here's the other thing too. I go back to a Elite 8 game back when I first started working in North Carolina. I want to say it was 1995. He was the 1 seed. UNC, I believe, was like the 3 seed. Kentucky was a big 3-point shooting team, and Dean Smith never played zone. But for that game, he said, "You know what? We're going to play zone, Kentucky. We're going to." And Pitino never made any adjustments. Kentucky went like 3 for 35 from 3-point range. UNC won by double digits. And after the game, Pitino came into the press room and said, "We gave those guys a plan, but they didn't follow it." So basically, he threw his own players under the bus. So, that for as great as Pitino is, and he is, I just kind of think that he can be, you can play with it. You can play with his brain a little bit, because Rick Pitino it's all about Rick Pitino with him. And if he does things the way he's going to do it, and if it doesn't work out, he's in trouble.
Okay, so I think of like baseball when you go into the Hall of Fame, you wear the hat.
Yeah.
But for him, because I like Coach K, Duke, Roy Williams, Carolina, right? Him, I have no idea. Is it just Rick Pitino? Like, how does that work? Who is he affiliated with?
The Celtics.
Oh, yeah. Sure he is. Like, because Calipari, all right, look, he was at Kentucky. He won there. But I
won that. He's there, yep.
But both those guys, it's kind of the same thing where they're their own entity. That's what's weird.
The crazy thing with Pitino is he's done it at Kentucky and at Louisville, and those dudes are like bitter rivals. I mean, they can't stand each other. But did he raise another banner besides the one that got taken down? But because he's raised banners at both places. Now, the one at Louisville, I think, got taken down. Although, now under today's rules, I guess, other than the strippers,
in the dorm room. I know. Dude, I remember.
Hey, you can consider that NIL, man, right?
Look, I think of Calipari.
Sponsored by the Dollhouse.
Look, hey, we had Magic City in the NBA. Okay?
Right? Yeah.
Calipari, I love those UMass teams he had. And then he left
Marcus Camby.
Those teams are great. And look, I feel bad in hindsight. That team at Memphis he had. And I know Derrick Rose was not going to class. Like,
that was Calipari, right?
That was Calipari. Yeah. And he went to Kentucky. That was a hell of a team. Remember, and Kansas had to beat him in overtime.
Correct.
For that national title. That was it's the weirdest thing. Those guys have the weirdest legacy. They are Mount Rushmore in my eyes for modern coaches.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
I don't know who they're affiliated with when it comes to basketball. I don't know. But they're both. All right, I want to bring up Arkansas. I think they're going to give Arizona a game here.
I think so too. And Akoff, man, he is on fire. Although, you know what? High Point, almost beat him the other day. I mean, they took him to the wire.
He signed with Reebok today. I don't know if you saw this.
No, I did not.
Allen. So he's an Allen Iverson guy, right? And they decided, hey, you're going to be with Reebok. He might be a top 3 pick in the draft. Dude, this guy, Akoff, he has ascended.
And he's done it at the right time too. He's done it with the entire nation watching. In the SEC tournament and now in the NCAA tournament. Here's the thing, though. I'm concerned that his supporting cast is not good enough for him to beat Arizona by himself.
Arizona,
and he basically beat High Point by himself. That second half down the stretch. The ball was in his hands every possession, and he scored basically every possession. It was him and the kid from High Point going back and forth.
All right, here's my thing about him. Because you look at the college basketball, you look at NBA, his game is going to translate, because how many guys do you have from the standpoint, we have guys who are 6'8", they're versatile, they're wings, they play multiple positions, but he might be your Jalen Brunson for the next 10 years. Yeah. There aren't many guys like that in the NBA, and he could be the guy, your catalyst for the next 10
And
years.
He doesn't just have height, he's built. I mean, and so, he can withstand contact. He can withstand playing 82 games. And I agree with you 100%.
All right. So I saw Arizona play this year. Mm-hmm. They are big, physical, and nasty.
Well coached.
Yes. They play 90s bully ball. I think if they just hammer Arkansas down low, they should win this game.
I agree. I think so too. And especially, I've seen the two games that Arkansas has played in this tournament. I think they can get their bigs in foul trouble. And if they do, it's anything around the rim is fair game. So, yeah.
All right. You said Houston. You said that's one of your four.
Yep.
I don't know why. We're both on the Eastern Standard Time. Dude, that game is starting at like 10:10 at night. Illinois. Why? Who are we pandering to?
I don't know, but Texas Tech and whoever they played Alabama the other night at 9:45 at night on a Sunday night. Come on.
You know what? It was in Tampa. All the Florida fans left, so it was half empty anyway.
Unbelievable.
All right. That game, Houston, Illinois, is going to be phenomenal. I said this yesterday. I want your take. We're talking about these coaches. I'm kind of rooting for Calvin Sampson.
I am too.
He needs to get his green jacket.
I thought last year was going to be the year. Yeah.
He almost did it.
Here's the thing. First of all, I've known Kelvin since he was at Washington State. He's from Lumberton, North Carolina. And I was at the paper in Fayetteville, which is just up the road. And so I've had a relationship with him for a very, very long time. So I would like to see that happen as well. But I think that this year's team has got enough holdovers from last year's team. They played just as good a defense as they did, but the two freshmen have given them an offensive element that they have not had. And they're playing these next two games in Houston, whereas unlike Florida, in the Sunshine State last week, I think this is going to be a huge advantage for Houston. And I think that they physically and defensively will slow that Illinois team down. It'll be a great game if that's how it turns out. But I just think that Houston is really – I just kind of feel like this whole team was built specifically to get to Indy and to win this thing. And they've been tested in the Big 12. And yeah, like you said, Kelvin has paid his dues and he's kind of got one coming to him.
He kind of reminds me of like Dusty Baker in baseball, where, you know what I mean? He's always there, but he never pulled through. All right. I know you cover the ACC. I don't think they've ever won in the modern era, right? Houston.
What would you? Oh, no, they have not. Yeah.
No, I know I know someone's watching. They're going to go, well, they won in 1931. No. I'm talking the actual tournament, and they've had so many great teams. And look,
the NC State, thing. They played for the championship there. Didn't they also play Georgetown when Ewing was there for the championship?
And then last year, and look, Illinois never won either. They've been close.
No, and it's really funny because I was at a restaurant in Greenville, South Carolina, between the games. And there was an Illinois fan sitting next to a bunch of us, UNC, and Duke guys. And he saw us and heard us, and he says, "Oh, I'll never forgive, UNC. They cheated their way to a championship against us in what 20 whatever is 05. Yeah, it's like, oh shush. Sean May cheated it out of you by being unstoppable that game. So
that is the great what if with that program.
Yeah,
because I lived in Illinois at the time. Let me tell you something. That's when Bill Self left for the Kansas job. So that was the greatest Illinois team of all time. And we're in the title game. They're right. And they've never been back since. Yep. I know, look, here's what's funny. So at the Magic game, Nick Anderson's there. Nick Anderson is the first ever pick of the Orlando Magic 89. He was on the 89 Final Four team for Illinois. He was Mr. Basketball in Illinois. He's from Simeon High School. My dad was from the South Side. So there's this great moment. And when I always think of my dad's at the Magic game with me. He bumps into Nick Anderson, and they have this moment where they're both from the South Side of Chicago. And I'll always cherish that. So it's one of those things. You know what? If I was with that Illinois fan, I'd be yelling at you as well. Okay. I hope you know that. You know what I mean? All right. Is this all like, look, it's a crapshoot. It doesn't matter how good you are. You still got to get lucky in 6 games, Brett.
You do. And here's the thing. You look at the teams that are still around, right? Duke has got a starter out. Michigan has got their backup point guard out. What else do we have? Seems like every team that's still in it is dealing with an injury or two, and all it takes is one guy coming down on an ankle and twisting it, and everything changes. So I mean, it is a crapshoot, and yes, the best team doesn't always win, and there is a lot of luck involved. I mean, it's single elimination. This isn't best of 7. You can't get away with having a stinker. Because if you have a stinker or your coach has a brain freeze in the last 30 seconds, you're watching from the couch while somebody else cuts down in the nets.
Are you kind of sad there's no Cinderellas?
Yes, I am actually. And I've heard people say, well, Texas is a Cinderella. They're 11th seed. No. They have their own TV network. Okay. Cinderellas don't have their own TV network. They're an 11 seed. They underperformed. And that's the problem. And that's what we're going to see from here on out, because NIL and the transfer portal has really kind of taken away any kind of, I don't want to say advantage, but they've widened the gap between the mid-majors and the big boys. Because back in the day, the mid-majors would have teams that have been together for 4 years. They'd have juniors and seniors. They would have experience. They would have that cohesiveness. Whereas the big guys would have a bunch of freshmen who are playing in this for the first time, some of them who are worried about, showing out because they wanted to improve their draft status and this, that, and the other thing. And that's how upsets happen. Well, you don't have that quite as much, because now the big guys can afford to, load up on talent that has been there and done that. And you see guys that are staying 3, 4, sometimes 5, and even 6 years. And, the gap has widened. Basically, the mid-majors have become farm clubs for Kansas and Arkansas and all the big guys. So,
all right, then. Then my follow-up to you is Mick Cronin. He openly, I need $5 million. What are your thoughts? And then just openly saying that. And he's not.
It's legal now. It's like Will Wade at NC State. He was saying, "Hey, I'm a master in NIL because I've been doing it before everybody else, before it was legal." And so, it's the way it is. That's where we are right now.
I have no sympathy for those West Coast schools. They killed their own conference, the Pac-12. I mean, you're UCLA, and now you're just like some other team in the Big Ten. Like, what conference are you even in? Yeah. I don't know what they did.
And now you've got the Pac-12 that's calling itself the Pac-12, but basically what it is, it's Oregon State, Washington State, and the Big West, or the Mountain West.
I don't get it.
Yeah,
I don't honestly, I'd be like, just bring back the Pac-12.
Mark, here's the thing. I kind of feel like that 18 to 20 team coast-to-coast conferences they're untenable. You just can't administrate them, and eventually it's going to become too much. And I think maybe, hopefully, knock on wood, you will see, some of these conferences retract. I don't know. I just don't believe that the way things are set up now is going to be the way it is set up in 5 years. Now, how it shakes out, what it looks like, no clue. But I just don't think that this is sustainable.
Okay. I'm going to ask you a fun question. Over the years then, what are some of your favorite teams? Just you off the top of your head, because you covered a lot of these. You talked about 05 UNC. What are some of your favorite teams that you love?
One of my most favorites is NC State 2 years ago. The team that won 5 games in 5 days. DJ Burns became a rock star. They had absolutely no business winning the ACC, let alone getting to the Final Four, and they did. And Kevin Keats, their coach, made a big deal of every time they won on the road, they would go out for ice cream. And he showed up in Phoenix with like sneakers with like the number 6 or however many games in a row they had won, ice cream cones on the shoes. So that's one. And then the 2010 Duke team that John Shire played on, it was one of the it was not anywhere near the most talented team Mike Krzyzewski had, but it was, to me, the most cohesive unit I have ever seen. A team that just kind of everybody knew their roles. The Lance Thomas, basically all he did was get rebounds. Brian Zubek, all he basically did was set screens and get rebounds. And then you had the interchangeable guards, Nolan Smith and John Shire, who switched roles halfway through the season, and that's when they took off, because Shire started out as a shooting guard, and when they switched, Nolan Smith became much better as the shooting guard, and even though he wasn't as quick or as creative, Shire just seemed to know how to get the ball to the right guy at the right time. And then it was Kyle Singler, who was kind of the star of that team, and it just all came together. And then of course there was the championship game with Butler, the last real Cinderellas to be able to get to a championship game, and something I don't think we're ever going to see again.
All right, time out. That was the game where Hayward almost hit the shot.
Yes, and I was sitting, and this is one of the last times that the media sat, or all the media sat courtside. So it was the last time at a Final Four I sat courtside, and I had just finished writing my lead to my story because deadline was getting close. And I'm sitting there and I'm watching that ball in the air. And I am telling you, Mark Moses, that thing was dead on line. And I'm thinking, I'm going to have to hit delete. And I'm going to have to rewrite this because it looked like it was going in. And it was one of the most exciting championship games. That and the Villanova Chris Jenkins final minute or so of that. There are so many that it's hard to pick one or two, but those are among them.
So you were there for the Villanova shot. Carolina hits that ridiculous double pump.
Marcus Page with that double pump, yeah. And you know what? Had Carolina gone on to win that game in overtime, that might end up being the most famous shot in UNC history, even more so than Michael Jordan against Georgetown.
I really feel like with Michael Jordan that he's there on pit row, constantly winning now NASCAR races, and then someone's gonna like shrug his shoulder. Excuse me, Mr. Jordan, and he's smoking the cigar. I'm gonna run NASCAR now. Excuse me, we're having problems back at Chapel Hill. Like you can just see, like he's the president, and they're like, getting him on the phone. That's what I imagine.
I would imagine that if there is a change, that somebody will make a call to him to ask what he thinks.
Oh, you talk about deep pockets of any school. He has to be above everyone, right? I mean, his logo is on the
on the shoe. Yeah, I know, right? The jump man.
I just want to say this. I know you're busy, man, so thanks for doing this with me. Okay. This past weekend, I was watching different 30 for 30s on Major League Baseball. And I know you have written books on baseball, right? You're a great man. You love the Braves. I know all this stuff about you over the years.
Yeah, but I tell you what, I'm not excited about this season, man. Their pitching staff's already a mess.
So that is your problem. So here's the thing. So I was watching one on, the 86 Mets, which is great. Yep. And what's funny is you forget back then there's no wild card. Nope. So winning the division is a big deal. Okay. A big deal back then. And then the one I want your thoughts on, and we've discussed this over the years. So I'm watching the one on McGuire and Sosa. And the older I get,
and Justine Dion, baby.
Dude, I don't even like, I used to be so upset. Like that was my childhood. This is where I grew up with. Now I don't whatever. Now no one cares about those guys. No one even, if you are 21 years old, you're like, what are you even talking about? I don't even know what to think now.
And what's crazy is that was the biggest, that summer, those two, basically every day, that was the story. I mean, the two of them. And then, McGuire breaks the record and Maris's family is there. And it was,
I saw Sosa play at Wrigley Field that summer. He looked like, and this is the only time I've ever seen this in my life, so he was on something. I'm sorry. He was at the plate like you're playing 12-inch softball with your buddies.
Have you seen him lately? You see what he looks like lately?
I don't even understand what's going on. And I saw McGuire at Busch Stadium, so I saw them both. And I remember he got a base hit, RBI single, and they booed him at the stadium. Because
they wanted him to hit a home run.
All right, I'll let you go. Brett Friedlander, thanks for your help as always, man. Good luck with your coverage, all right?
Thanks a lot, Mark.
All right, good stuff. Always love talking to Brett Friedlander. Great friend of mine. I'm going to adjust my camera here. It's the least I can do so you don't see any of the clutter in the background. Yeah, we're still under construction, as I like to call it. So here's the thing. Yeah, we were watching, my dad and I We're watching the 30 for 30 on, yes, Mark McGuire and Sammy Sosa. And I did see both of those guys play in 98. I even saw Bonds play, but like, I used to be so obsessed with the steroid era and, Game of Shadows, the book. And it's one of those things, should they be in the Hall of Fame? Should they not be in the Hall of Fame? And it's one of those things where it's like, now, I don't know if anyone cares what's going on. Like, whatever. I mean, I have a coworker that goes, I graduated high school in 2020. 2020? What? You mean like when Brady signed with the Buccaneers during the pandemic? Oh, man, I am getting older. I am. All right. Speaking of the Buccaneers, I want to go over this story real quick. And again, thanks to Brett Friedlander for coming on the show. And we're always broadcasting from the Anidjar and Levine Accident Attorney Studios. Take back control of your life. Call them today. Yes, it's Anidjar and Levine Accident Attorneys. I got the email from the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Yes, veteran linebacker Levante David, who spent all 14 years in the NFL there in Tampa, has announced his retirement. Here's the press release. I'm going to read some of this to you. David's historic career earned him a tie with Pro Bowl Hall of Famer Derek Brooks as the career franchise leader in total tackles with 1,714. He also ranked tied for sixth most in the NFL. David stands alongside Hall of Famers Ray Lewis, Junior Seau, Jason Taylor, and Brian Urlacher as the only player since at least 1982 with 35-plus takeaways and 40-plus sacks in his career. Here's the Glazer family. Quote, for the past 14 seasons, Levante David has personified what it means to be a Tampa Bay Buccaneer. He was a selfless leader both on and off the field, playing with passion and a genuine love for the game. He leaves a legacy as a Super Bowl champion and one of the greatest players in franchise history, setting a standard that will continue to impact our organization for years to come. That's from the Glazer family. Very nice. He is a Miami native. He was selected, yes, second round in the 2012 NFL draft out of the University of Nebraska. It's so crazy to think. This is what the older I'm getting here. I saw him play at Nebraska when I was living in Omaha. Then he got drafted by the Buccaneers, and I saw the whole career there at One Bucks Place. That is crazy, dude. David finished his career starting 215 games, in which he ranks third in club history, both in appearances and starts, behind Rondé Barber and Derek Brooks. That is awesome. That really is. And it just goes on. Everyone's praising him in the press release, but yeah, 1,700 tackles, 79 quarterback hits, 73 pass defense, 42.5 sacks, 33 forced fumbles, 14 interceptions, scored 3 defensive touchdowns, 1 AP first team All-Pro, 2 second team, multiple time Pro Bowler, Super Bowl champion. I'm going to say this right now, all-time Buccaneer, Hall of Famer, Ring of Honor, retire the jersey. Fire them cannons. It's pretty awesome. All right. If you miss anything, check it out on MarkMosesShow.com. Thanks again to Brett Friedlander. We had some fun today. Yeah, check out MarkMosesShow.com. Follow me on the socials, and have a great day. Basketball will be back on Thursday. We'll see you around right here on the Mark Moses Show.